The key thing about starting any new business, I guess, is the fact that it's exceptionally invigorating to start off with, and you sort of feed off your own energy, and the idea of being on your own and being able to call the shots and not having to work for anyone, it really does psych you up, and it certainly psyched me up. I think the biggest challenge comes after that, in terms of once you've gone through the motions of setting yourself up, and generally the first client comes along quite quickly because you've got that energy and you've got that drive and determination. But it's just how you put the pieces in place after that I found the most challenging. And to realize that there's no prior copy and paste scenario someone can give you that is going to equip you for how you evolve as an entrepreneur or as a business owner. And I think for me, the biggest thing was that I started a business within a field that I knew very well, and having had the experience in that field, having understood how it works, and having built relationships up with suppliers and clients and so forth, it really helped equip me, and that's why I feel it's so important to have some prior experience in the area that one may choose. I think with any entrepreneur, I think the first customers you get are those you're going to thank for the rest of your life, because they are effectively the people who buy into whatever passion you may have, regardless of what the product may be. I was quite fortunate in the sense that I moved into industry I knew and probably had an existing network of people who I could call on, and I happened to have one very loyal client who I signed up with very shortly after starting, which is enough to take the immediate risk out of starting a business, and meant that I had some form of income for the first little while, but there was also no guarantee that it's going to exist beyond a very short period. So it was enough to move me into that space, but also enough to really keep me on my toes. And it gave me the confidence to move forward and go sourcing other clients. And I think getting the first clients in place is obviously the key element, because you then use that as a test case going forward. And it's natural to sell beyond what you have offered up to that point, because otherwise there's no way of saying that vision. But I was fortunate in the sense. I've heard it said many times from people I've spoken to or books that I've read when it comes to the saying that network equals net wealth. And I really believe quite strongly in that saying, in the sense that the support and the base and the network that one builds up, maybe only when you've started a business, or maybe that you're fortunate enough to bring into a business, it really is the key to any business. And I really believe that the most important element is playing open cards and chatting to as many people as you can possibly chat to within the industry or outside of the industry, and building really, really key, healthy alliances as one goes along, whether it be through regular catch-up with a cup of coffee with someone, or attending networking events or workshops or whatever it may be. And I believe that there are so many new business owners who try and keep their cards so close to their chest because they're so protective of their particular idea that they have, and so protective over that intellectual property that they possess, or so worried that someone's going to steal their idea. But I believe that that's counterproductive, in the sense that the more you talk to people about your ideas or your visions, or the way you want to go as a business, the more goodwill is attached to you as an entity, and the more people want to surround themselves with you, be associated with you, and buy into that vision. I also believe quite strongly, especially being in a marketing or branding industry, that there are no enemies. You may have competitors, but the relationship with those competitors need to be nurtured. And I believe that you've got to keep your enemies close, but at the same time, there is always synergy, and there are always different ways to approach things. There are always ways to chat to competitors on the basis of how one could potentially work together. So often people have got capacity issues and need to outsource and need to work together to build their own respective brands. But there is such a massive opportunity to share knowledge and to share ideas and to grow collectively, as opposed to trying to forge ahead of one's own, isolate oneself from those that have really, really good value to give. And I believe that's the only way one can grow. One of the really, really important things, though, in terms of alliances and partnerships, is that from the word go, one has got to make sure that you do not compromise in terms of who you align with, especially when you are in a service-related industry or any related industry where you're dependent on quality of work, as we all would be, and where you need to rely on certain suppliers to do things, where you need to outsource, whether maybe production or whatever, design or any of those capabilities. It's so important that one accepts and realizes from the word go, even if budgets are tight, that aligning with the best is the only way you are going to grow in line with the vision you want, but also that compromising on cost initially probably will cost you more in the long run, whether it be rectifying mistakes that have been made, or whether it comes to the reputational damage and the associated costs with that further down the track. I think as an entrepreneur or a new business on the block as such, the only way you can build repeat business is through doing what you do exceptionally well for a particular client. I've realized, I always spoke about it, but never really realized how important word of mouth was, and how if you keep one client happy, I know everyone talks about it, that they will refer you, and that their referral to someone of influence means so much more than that person having read it anywhere else, whatever. And it's so true, and a huge amount of our repeat business or referral business has been long-term business. So I think to secure repeat business, the key is really to keep communicating. Any clients that is worth having as a client will accept the mistakes do happen, but as long as you keep them informed, as long as you keep making them understand or realize that you are there to sort the problem out, that's how trust and long-standing relationship will be built. I was quite fortunate in the sense that I started up a service-related business where initially I was purely selling my own time and didn't have massive startup costs in terms of infrastructure or staffing or whatever else it may have been. So I guess I knew what I needed to cover per month, and I worked around that, knowing that if for whatever reason it didn't work out, I had the ability to go back into a corporate environment without owing too much to banks or whatever else it may have been. So I was fortunate in that sense, but it also made me realize that the barriers to entry in terms of starting up a new business are a lot lower than what one thinks, and a lot easier to achieve. And once I'd got momentum going in terms of clients and selling my time, I was able to manage it accordingly, and then obviously expand from there. But I was never in a situation where I needed much startup capital from anyone else, or where I was heavily leveraged in terms of owing money to banks or anyone else for that matter. And then it was only really when I needed to employ a person to back up what I was doing that the need for an office arose, and the location was pretty much determined by cost at the time in terms of an entry-level office. But obviously, as a marketing company, we wanted to create the right perception from the word go. So the location was based on an office that had the right sense of arrival, the right location was easy to access for clients, and we tried to create an environment where clients were impressed and where clients felt comfortable to come to, and where we could host clients in a boardroom environment. So that's pretty much how our journey began. Any new business owner, entrepreneur would be lying if they said that there were no obstacles from the word go. I think that the main obstacle that I think any entrepreneur who's ever come up with a business idea has experienced, unless being very fortunate with big funding or big backing, has been cash flow. And I think that nothing in any textbook can really prepare you for how much you will learn about accounting and the management of money from the word go. And it certainly was quite a big obstacle for me in starting a new business and being very restricted initially in terms of what could be done and what could not be done, which in hindsight was probably quite a benefit in terms of being forced to be very strategic about the planning and the rollout of the business and really scaling down everything initially until some form of a brand was built. I think any new business or any new entrepreneur has to be risk averse to an extent, or I certainly was to start off with. And I think for me, it all boiled down to cash flow and knowing that if I managed my cash flow correctly and had a very, very clear idea of what was coming in and what I had to budget for going forward, that I could make decisions based on that, and that my risk profile ultimately was determined by that. But I think the other factor or the other obstacle is just the fact that personally it takes quite a big toll initially, and it can really become all-encompassing. It probably was very all-encompassing for me initially, and it was something I had to learn to try and limit and try and monitor as I move forward, because once you throw yourself into entrepreneurship, it's all or nothing, and it's, for me, probably the biggest challenge was balancing the desire to succeed as an entrepreneur with other elements such as family and friends, and just being present in those other spheres and outside of business. But I think the key is that if you look at the whole scenario of short-term pain and long-term gain, as a lot of people put it, the key is that if you know where you're going and you know what the vision is for that business and you are passionate and driven to achieve it, that the short-term sacrifices you make in terms of time and energy and whatever else really are quite insignificant in the greater scheme of things. Everyone always talks about the first couple of years being really, really tough, especially the first years, and for me it was everything of that. It was exceptionally tough, but I've always tried to look 10, 15, 20 years ahead in terms of where you want to be, and it really is just a drop in the ocean. I don't think I was surprised at how hard it was, but I think I was surprised at how many mistakes I made along the way and how many mistakes I made initially. And at the time, those mistakes, although they probably are quite marginal when you look back at them now, seem like massive mistakes at the time. And I think one of the biggest things that I probably wish I'd known or prepared myself for was how often I'd make those, but how down you can get on making those mistakes, and in hindsight it would be realizing that mistakes happen and that they're there for a reason, because they make you strong as a business and they make you realize what you need to look out for again in future, and they help you evolve. And without making mistakes, it's impossible to grow. And the key is just to ensure you don't make those mistakes again. And that if you do make those mistakes, especially in a client-related business, that you communicate and that you have a very, very specific determination and need to rectify those mistakes. Very often by rectifying them and handling them in the right situation, you actually build a strong relationship with your clients.